try to maximize whatever energy you have. A lot of people were skeptical about them, like, oh no, inverter ACs, they are not repairable, the compressor, blah 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 blah. But right now, inverter ACs are way more expensive. When you have something that is not enough, why will you be wasting it? Motion sensors help to mitigate that human error of forgetting and leaving lights on. You see that in most fancy hotels today because they know how each watt would save them cost. And the second one is 450,000 or 500,000. The same capacity. What do you look out for next?
Maybe it's village wood that are sucking his battery.
You are the one that usually asks the questions. Now I'm asking you. I'll put you on the spot.
On today's episode, we'll be talking about energy management. I'm going to ask, what is energy management and why should it matter to everyday Nigeria?
All right, so energy management is crucial. I think in one of our previous episodes, or one of our episodes, I mentioned the current situation of Nigeria in terms of energy generation and transmission. So when you have something that is not enough, why will you be wasting it? So if you have something in excess, if you waste it, it's still bad to waste things, but there's no much impact. The energy that we don't even have enough of it, we are still wasting a lot of it in the country. And that's one of the biggest problems. And one thing is that people don't learn to control their habits when they are switching from grid to solar systems. A lot of people would say, oh, I also want to go off the grid. I don't want to go off the grid, but they should understand that there are some pre-checks and some level of discipline involved in switching completely to solar systems.
Yes.
I will explain this from two perspectives. From a commercial perspective, from a regular 9-to-5 office, to residential perspective. There are two different dynamics. All right, so for energy efficiency and energy management, one of the key things is that you try to maximize whatever energy you have. And they say they say charity begins at home. Your home this time around is the grid before you even have a solar system. So let me give you an example, and which is the first example I think is really changing all across the country now. Before now, a lot of persons still used to have incandescent light bulbs. But fortunately, people are waking up to the reality of LEDs now.
Yes.
So LEDs tend to reduce the energy usage for most of this equipment. Then another thing is that the choice of appliances is one of the major things that affects your energy management. So you're a lady now, you go to a store. I want to use you as I'm not being a stereotype or anything now. You walk into a store and you see two refrigerators, probably the same brand. So it's a known brand that you trust, or maybe two different brands that you trust. The two refrigerators are 120 liters each, but maybe one of them is 400,000, and the second one is 450,000 or 500,000. The same capacity. What do you look out for next? You are the one that usually asks the questions. Now I'm asking you. I'll put you on the spot.
So how effective both of them are?
Effective. Oh, they both cool very fast. The fast freezing. You can vote for the brand.
I'll go for the 400.
You go for 400,000.
Yes.
Now that's a mistake a lot of people make. The next thing you should check is the energy consumption rating for each of those refrigerators.
Okay.
So you can have one that is 120 liters and probably consumes 100 watts or maximum 200 watts of power, while that cheaper one can be consuming about 1,000 watts of power. So you see that 100,000 that you thought you saved, I bet it with you in less than 5 months, you pay it on a NEPA bill. If you are not paying on a NEPA bill and you install the solar system, it means you have to install a higher capacity, and that's more cost. So your energy management and cost management should have a proper balance. And that also comes to air conditioners. Before now, when these air conditioners came, we called them inverter ACs. A lot of people were skeptical about them. Like, oh, no, inverter ACs, they are not repairable, and the compressor, blah, 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 blah. But right now, inverter ACs are way more expensive than regular ACs. And people make this same mistake about refrigerators I mentioned. How much is 1 horsepower? This one is 200,000. How much is that one? 400,000. Nah, man, give me that 200,000.
Yes.
Without considering the rating. I even had some persons that told me that, oh, now inverter ACs can't cool as much as regular compressor ACs, and that's a blatant lie. That's a blatant lie. They are more efficient doesn't mean that they cannot go. So to make it much more practical to you, if an inverter AC has been running for a couple of hours, its energy consumption can drop as low as 300 or 350 watts. But you see those big higher machine, well, those machine ACs, those ice block machine that you call AC, they are most times when they are running at about 1,500, 1,000 watts. And they don't have any way to vary their compressor speed. So they are either on or off. So they keep going on and on. And each time they start, they pull a starting current. So that's one of the major things. After choice of appliance, then habit also comes in. Yes, you have an energy saving AC. Then you're leaving your house in the morning. So this is the residential part now. Leaving your house in the morning, you let your AC on. Nobody in the apartment. Yes, you say you want the building to be cool, but is it really needed to do that? Sometimes you can even have 3 or 4 ACs in a room and you decide to leave all of them on while stepping out, which is wrong. Still talking about equipment, I have a rule of thumb. So if I have a living room that is big and requires about 4 horsepower of cooling capacity to cool effectively, I would rather do either 4 units of 1 horsepower or 2 units of 2 horsepower than do 1 unit of 4 horsepower. So let me tell you why. You're trying to manage energy, right?
Yes.
4 horsepower is what will cool the room effectively. But that's when the room is at full capacity. I really need to cool the room fast. In a situation where maybe in that same big living room, you are just the only one, or let me use an office space, a meeting room.
Yes.
There are just 2 persons meeting in that meeting room. If you had just 1 unit of 4 horsepower, it means you are still forced to put on that 1 unit of 4 horsepower, which consumes so much power, compared to when you have 4 units of 1 horsepower around, and you can decide to turn on just one that you need at that moment. That is energy management.
Okay.
What you can also consider is things around like motion sensors. Motion sensors help to mitigate that human error of forgetting and leaving lights on. Maybe your corridor lights, they only come on when someone is walking along the corridor. You see that in most fancy hotels because they know how each watt would save them cost.
Yes.
So you can consider using motion sensors. Now back to our own office, which I always like to use a practical example. So what we did after installing energy efficient light bulbs, energy efficient air conditioners, and even your computers to the energy efficient ones, and there are some that really consume a lot of power. We also have timers. So there are some offices or some part of the office that automatically shut down at closing, maybe 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. because we don't want to leave chance to human error where you forget to leave things on. Then if you are still in that room or you still need power, there's an overriding method to override that automation. But that automation helps to conserve power instead of leaving those things on. And so when you combine all of this together, appropriate equipment, appropriate electrical gadgets and appliances with proper, proper discipline, understanding that, okay, yes, this power, because for every power you're wasting is something needed somewhere that should have just generated power for some other process. Even if it's your solar system, it is still a waste. And with that, energy management is very, very, very crucial. So once you've got your energy management right, this is what it does for you. So if, for example, I tell people when you do an audit of an apartment, we hardly do apartments, but when we do that such, or even an office, let's use an office, which is our usual forte. You've checked an office and it's covered that their current, you've logged it, and their current power needs about 80,000 watts. So you're about to install an 100 kilowatts inverter, which would be a lot of money, right? If not running to hundreds of millions of naira. But at some point, we go back to this same entity and say, you know what? Why not do this? That's so-called almost 100 or something million you have spent on your solar system to power this current load. If you pull out just maybe 20 or 30 million of this money and swap a lot of equipment within a facility to energy-saving equipment, which is air conditioners, major air conditioners and refrigerators and all those things within the building, most times their energy usage drops from that 80 kilowatt to as low as 30 or 40 kilowatts.
Wow.
So by then, the capacity they really need to install will have dropped, and that would have reduced the cost.
Yes.
So because apart from the inverter, sometimes some of them fall back to grid. So it means that instead of throwing a 40 kilowatts grid, 80 kilowatts load on the grid, they end up having just 40 kilowatts. So that saves them money. Most times, businesses don't like bulk capital expenses. They're like, no, how can we change 40 ACs? No, this is bad advice. But technically, when you look at the commercials, it doesn't make sense to spend that money on a high capacity inverter when you can have just taken part of that budget to permanently cut down on energy usage. And that's very important. So energy management is one of the key metrics for successful solar system installation.
What are the steps to check or the steps to take before you install and precaution?
Okay, so in some episodes I'll talk about checking roof structure, solar panels, can it hold the capacity, can it hold the weight, the position of the building. I've seen some very, very steep roofs. Very, very steep roofs. Sometimes they cast shadow on solar panels and the efficiency is not so fantastic. And in our experience, we discovered that flat roofs are usually some of the best kind of roof system that generates most of the power, especially if it's facing the right direction for the sun. And it's still about energy efficiency. So I'll use my own case as a practical example. So in my home, let's say my solar system is actually powers every single thing in the building. And when I mean every single thing, there's a lot of load.
Okay.
I'm talking about 10 air conditioners, 3 washing machines, 2 of them are clothes washing machines with dryers, and 1 is a dishwasher, about 6 water heaters. So it's a lot of power. And every single thing in the building, that's apart from lights and televisions and water dispensers, about 3 of them or so. But we still end up managing power and still understanding how to spread the dynamics. Because for a commercial property, you can still even have the leverage to, in quotes, not technical, like in quotes, waste power, because most of your energy demand and energy usage is during the sunshine hours. So as it's generated, you are using it up. You are not really struggling to put a lot of power back in storage. And so most times, most offices at night, their power demand drops drastically till the next day, which is where sunshine comes up. Beautiful for office complexes. But for residents, you are out during the day when the sun is shining. So you need a situation where your batteries will store a lot of power that can last you through the night. So how do you do that? So in our case, you can never see us running those washing machines. You hardly ever see us washing those washing machines at night. So you're going off most of that program. Maybe you can control them from your mobile phones. You've loaded the clothes. Maybe you left early before the sun started shining, so you don't start draining the battery. You wait like 8-9 o'clock, pull out your phone and start the machine remotely. So it starts washing, knowing that within that hour and 4 p.m. when sun sets, it's done washing. So that is not a demand on the battery or the grid, which is a backup system. Things like some persons are aware of that habit, come back home and start running microwave. If there's a way to manage that, you shouldn't be sorry. That's one of the solar systems will teach you. You wouldn't start pressing a big pile of clothes at 9 p.m. except it's necessary, because everything you are doing at that moment is now drawing power from the battery, not from the sunshine that is actually the real cost-saving part of the energy system. So energy management cannot be overemphasized. It's very important. It saves money and also gives better efficiency across board. So I recommend proper energy audits for anybody going for solar systems.
I hope you've been enlightened on how to manage your energy resources properly. We'll be right back.
Talking Watts is sponsored by Revocube Energies. You can contact us on 020 1291 4298. 020 1291 4298 or via email at info@revocubeenergies.com.
Welcome back to Talking What. And now we'll be taking our questions. today we have just one question, and
Okay.
yes, this person says he has renewable energy in his house. He uses renewable
Solar system, precisely,
yes,
right?
solar system. He uses renewable energy, and it doesn't last
Overnight.
Yes, he needs advice. Would you advise this person?
Maybe his village would have sucking his battery overnight. but on a more serious note,
So I've explained this countless times. For residential use, your battery is your backbone of your system.
Yeah.
For commercial use, energy generation is your backbone. More of PVs, fewer batteries. For home, fewer PVs, more batteries. So you can charge as much as possible and store enough power. So I mentioned it passively in the earliest when talking about energy management. It depends on the habits of the user. So the fact that yes, some persons say I have 4 big batteries, it's not about that. What is the load you have on your system overnight? Apart from the aging of the battery, sometimes we mistaken that maybe the battery is getting old. Especially lithium batteries don't usually deteriorate that fast. So although I don't know how long this person has installed the system, I don't know how long it's been running, but even if it's freshly installed, there's a tendency that it won't last over the night if the grid doesn't come in. Because if the person comes home, I mentioned it, you turn on microwave, you microwave food. If your electric cooker is on it, you decide to go and warm it, use oven, then you go to the fridge. And one of the terrible habits that we have, you see that those seconds or minutes you are standing in front of it trying to decide what you are carrying, it's actually affecting the consumption of the refrigerator. So most times when you open the fridge, it has to work harder to keep the temperature inside the fridge. So when you've not decided what you want to eat and you stand in front of the fridge and you are gazing at, should I combine this vegetable with this indomie I had yesterday? So those are the kind of habits. They're not in the room. There's nobody in the room and you had left the lights on. You got back home. That's when you remember that you ironed the shirts for yesterday, for tomorrow. So all of those kind of things. Left to me, I would have just advised person, why not iron your clothes during the daytime when the sun is shining on the weekend? Iron all the clothes for the week. That side of person might also be definitely most likely be a 9 to 5 person. Also throw some clothes in the washing machine, probably with dry at this time around, and still on inverter. So all of these parameters come to play in terms of energy management, which is excluding the fact that quality of the battery might be called to question. But even if it will have the best of the batteries, it cannot hold more than what it stores. So a 5 kilowatt hour battery, yes, will not deliver more than 5 kilowatt hours. So if you demand 1 kilowatt of load from it will last 5 hours. But if you demand 5 kilowatts of load from that battery, it will last just 1 hour. Night time is long go. So that's my own advice.
Yes, it's just like when you use your normal grid and you pay for it. And what's that?
The kilowatt hours, it's also the same rating.
Yes.
You use same kilowatts. So the amount of kilowatt hours you buy. So if you decide to leave your ACs on,
exactly
the same number of kilowatt hours. So that's actually the best way to connect the dots. So it's still same kilowatt hours.
I hope that answered your question. Thank you so much. And we've come to the end of today's episode of Talking Watts.
Talking Watts is sponsored by Revocube Energies. You can contact us on 020 1291 4298. 020 1291 4298 or via email at info@revocubeenergies.com.